So, Rohan, thank you so much for being here. This is an interview that is going to bring lots of knowledge and insights to everyone that's going to watch. Rohan is the India's most followed growth hacker. Is a co-founder of the International Growth Hacking Day that is celebrated at the 13th of July. Is the best-selling author and of the award-winning book, The Growth Hacking Book, is on sale at Amazon. The links are in the description. Is also a consultant and a keynote speaker. So my first question for you, Rohan, and you can just give more introduction if you want. But my first question for you is, how did you become a growth hacker and what do you love about being one?
So it started when I was actually, 16. I was a blogger, and when you start a blog, when you start a website, you naturally learn to write well, to design content, and to do SEO for it, to do social media promotions, to drive traffic to your website, and all sorts of things you start learning. So 2 years after that, I was invited to write for Huffington Post. I got a column there, and from there, a US-based startup wanted to hire me as their remote employee for content marketing and as their PR manager. Back then, I thought maybe this is a scam, and I did not really believe it. But then, when we had a conversation, I got to know that okay, it's a really fairly good SaaS product, and some of my blogging mentors like Neil Patel and others were endorsing their product. So I thought, okay, this is legit and it's real. So I worked with them for about 2 years, and I found that. The founder of that startup was used to call himself as a growth hacker. We had very limited interactions with him, so I did not really ask him directly. Instead, I searched on Google and tried to dig facts into what exactly growth hacking is. And then I started coming up with my own conclusions, my own interpretation to things. And then I started making my own frameworks and tried implementing or to my own campaigns and side projects. 2 years after that, I left that startup and created my own SaaS product. It worked for 8 months, and I applied all the principles that I've learned in those 2 years. And we were able to break even in about 3 months. And then I thought, okay, if I can do it for myself, I can probably also do it for the other startups. And that's when I started working with other startups, taking on projects as and when someone would approach to me. So this is how it began.
Okay, that's really interesting. So 2 years in the making, learning everything and improving your skills, and then you just went for yourself and build your SaaS product. So what was this SaaS product, and what you did? How did you break even in 3 months? Can you just guide us through this? Because I think it's really interesting for someone to understand how can you just start a new venture by yourself with 2 years of experience, and then you just discover that, oh, I can apply the frameworks that I'm using to another company.
So when I was hired by this company back in November 2016, I did not really know what exactly a SaaS startup is. And then I realized, okay, this is all subscription based. And it was so powerful that a team of, we were hardly 7 people, and they were doing very good with the revenue. And I thought, okay, there's nothing to do. There's no servicing here. It's all, just selling subscriptions, and these subscriptions are monthly, and the company makes whatever revenue. At the same time, the users were so happy with our product because it solved their problems. So I realized there is a gap with Twitter growth. So back in 2016, there was a lot of political movement on Twitter. And I also saw there were also lots of business people on Twitter who had no clue how to grow on Twitter. So I launched this SaaS product, which helped. It was more of like an influencer tool. So let's say if you and I are from the startup space, the growth hacking space. So we will be put into one pool, then fashion bloggers will be put into another pool. So depending on the topics you care about, we would categorize people into pools, and then we would, let's say, we would provide engagement to the paying customers, and the free customers get engagement based on how many actions they make on the platform. So it was essentially a tool to grow your engagement on Twitter, and it did really well. We were working with, I think Uber signed up for our product, Ministry of Women and Child Development, Government of India signed up for it. A lot of corporates that we were working with, SaaS companies, started signing up. So in about, I guess, 3 months, I got 1,200 users approximately, and we used our own product to uh, in the valley they say that eat your own dog food. So we used our own product to grow the user base. So the tool was about growing your followers, increasing sales through Twitter, and then in growing your engagement. We did exactly that for our own product, and we saw the results. That was another approval of the usability of the tool. So with the same thing, we started selling the exact same case study to other companies and agencies as well. So in about I guess 8 months, Twitter changed some policies because of what people were doing with the political scenario where they said Trump was using bots from Russia, and I don't know if it's true or not. Whatever the case be, we had no bot actions. We were actually using APIs, but we always had our own team managing accounts of influencers and trying to cross promote them and increase the reach. So Twitter asked us to make certain changes on the platform, which I did not wanted to agree to. So we decided that we will operate privately and we will stop using Twitter's API. And then eventually, I started, getting a lot of different cool startups to work with. So I thought, okay, this was a great experiment, and now I exactly know how to ideate a SaaS startup, build it, and then launch it and get users, and then also break even. So I think for a bootstrapped startup, it was a good win, given that I was doing it for the first time. So I took this as an experience and wanted to deliver the same to other startups that I was working with. So that's when I moved on.
Yeah, that's really really interesting. So you just found the audience that was going to work with you, especially on Twitter, and you just take advantage of that. And when it stopped working, you escalated your ideas elsewhere. That's really really interesting. So you talk also about your wins, and about in these 3 months, did you had any failure that you remember, or you had too much failures that you recall that made you grow it even more, and thought about the different process to apply?
I think the way we operate is more of um, everything is an experiment. I try to never use the word I'm an expert or something, because I see that, okay, my favorite analogy is this. So when you go to a doctor, they would always say they are practicing, right? So whenever you come and speak to growth hackers like us, we are always going to say we experiment. We are never going to say that we have. So you may have your own playbooks, you may have your own proven methods that have worked for you in the past, but then you're also trying to explore new channels, new possibilities. So you can never really say that you're an expert. And the agencies and the people who say they are an expert, they're essentially operating out of a playbook that has very fixed um, campaigns and marketing experiments that they run, which they know that what the outcome could be. So for the area of work that I am in, I'm helping startups get their first 100,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 100,000 users. For that, every startup is different, every niche is different, every audience is different, every product is different. So what one startup used may not work for others. So I see it as everything as an experiment, and most of them really fail. But we also make sure that to make up for that failure, we are trying to run rapid experiments, multiple experiments, and as many ideas as possible in as interesting and new ways as possible, so that we can actually learn from those failures, iterate, and optimize and do better.
Okay,
So I don't actually remember any specific
yeah.
example to give here. So that's why I was explaining that everything is really an experiment, and we are trying to optimize as much as possible.
Yeah, so you just have the frameworks and you just go and go with the flow and try
True.
to understand what's working or not. So shifting a little bit towards more of the future, you work with enterprises like UNESCO, Uber, Red Bull, and so on. You have a lot of uh, amazing companies that you already work with. Can you share a little bit what have you been accomplishing with them, and how did you help them? And then after talking these big companies, we'll just go also to the consulting services that you provide to startups and how do you help them acquire users also. But first, I just wanted to talk about these big companies and how did you help them accomplish big things?
Sure. So a lot of enterprises, or I would say large companies would come to us to mostly have very specific kind of services. To quote a few, there is this popular jewelry brand out of India and Dubai that is called Kalyan Jewelers. We help them their online outlet to with everything to do with social media, their entire initial, so they are actually more than 100-year-old brand, and they decided to transition into having an online outlet. So since their launch, we were the ones to grow them on social media, help with hiring a few growth team members, and we created in-house tools for them for
Hmm.
specific purposes. And then we run Facebook, essentially media buying campaigns for them. So it depends on the use cases that they come in for. I remember with Red Bull, I guess we were doing their Instagram, which is amazing. For this candidate by Kalyan Jewelers that I mentioned, we were, I think, almost doing everything initially. With UNESCO, I think we were having their Twitter. With again, I guess Uber again sign up for the Twitter platform. Who else I can remember now? I think these were on top of my mind, and this is how we met them and worked with them.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. So you also help them grow their social networks, right? Mainly. Okay, so and for startups, what type of service do you usually provide to them, and also what do you offer when you are trying to help them acquire their first 100,000 and 100,000 users?
I think for most of them, it's more of trying. We try to ask them if you feel that you've already, if they already have certain traction with their startup. Let's say if they already have, let's say, 1,000 users, and they know that which segment that they are trying to um, appeal to, then we think of scaling and growth hacking. So we actually run product market fit tests for all these startups, and then once we are sure of this is a must-have product, we try to apply growth hacking there. So most of these companies are really looking for validation and proof, and that's where we start with. So for that, I would do two kinds of model. Actually, one is consulting, just letting them know what would I do if I was at their if this was my startup. So that is more of consulting, where we tell them that okay, these would be potential experiments that we are going to do week by week, and this is how I would measure it, and this is how we would proceed with that. So this is more of advising and consulting. The second is we actually um, do it for them. So a lot of new startups wouldn't really have a team, so they can actually hire us as a remote team, and we run campaigns for them.
Okay, that's really interesting. So they can hire you, or they can have your consultation to different ways of growing. You also talked about growing internal teams. Do you usually do that for bigger enterprises that have that kind of issue? And do you know lots of enterprises doing this? Because, for example, I know some enterprises that wish to do that, but they don't have the capacity right now, and they are trying to explore this. So they start like with a consultation services with us, and then they just start growing and growing until they have enough revenue to build an insight team.
Yeah, I think it happens both ways. So I have been, approached by agencies with, more. I think there was this one latest example. They told me that they have 900 employees, and they were specifically looking for some internal processes that I helped with. Then I was giving an example of this 100-year-old brand trying to set up an online outlet. So they wanted a team for that. So I helped them hire a few people. Then there's also one other model that I do with companies is that if they need my advice, or they want me to be with their in-house team for some time, I actually have been in-house consultant for a few companies for a specific period of time where I interact with their teams and try to optimize their current processes, introduce new experiments for their marketing team. And at places like these, most of the times I would take some of my own team members, or try to hire some more external consultants to handle very specific campaigns, no matter the size of their enterprise or startup. They are always looking, if they are well funded and they are really in need of a good team and good expertise from people who have been there and done that. So I'm usually, taking on people who can be really good at with specific skills. So be it a small company or a large startup, I love, creating team from scratch. But again, it really depends on where they're trying to fit in the people.
Okay, that's amazing. So, as the India's most followed growth hacker, right now, what do you think that is the biggest challenge that our industry is facing, as growth hacker? So, this term growth hacking is growing a lot. Also, growth marketing is growing. We see the trend coming. And what is the biggest challenge that you think that we are going to face?
I think the two biggest challenges that I see is one, lack of originality. A lot of people, a lot of startups just are replica of each other, really. Instead of finding new problems to solve, maybe they're just solving the same problem again and again. That is one. So this is more on the startup side. The second would actually be on the marketing side, where again there is no originality really. Everyone is trying to play by some other person's book, and everyone is trying to copy things that other people are doing. There are a lot of sheeps, but not a lot of shepherds. So my encouragement here is that we need more shepherds to drive the industry versus sheeps who are just trying to copy one or two shepherds that we already see everywhere. So that is one. And the last third one would be that because the platforms are changing so dynamically all the time, be it social media platform or Google or anything, nothing can really be trusted if it's today, whether will be there tomorrow or not. I was really surprised to see so many of social media CEOs getting into legal trouble recently with all the political scenario in the US, and then Google being sued for favoring their own products. So it wouldn't be a surprise of anything happens the next day if anything goes down. So I think it's all about being omnipresent and being really um, platform agnostic, if that is a word. where you don't really care of the platform, but you care for you temporarily use a channel to reach out to your prospects, clients, or users, or whatever. So I think again, we saw. I come from India, and we here in our country we used to have TikTok, but now it is totally banned. We can't even access the site or the app. And we really had lots of TikTok users. It was a very popular platform here, and suddenly it was taken down by the government. And so all the TikTok influencers were in shock because the decision really came overnight. So we are not in control of anything. So I think it's more than ever we need to be omnipresent, and second is to be just platform agnostic. You can't have a company saying that we are a TikTok marketing agency or a LinkedIn marketing agency. That's a very temporary business to be in. So I think the person or the people or anyone, I think anyone watching this, my suggestion is to just be platform agnostic.
Okay, that's a great piece of advice. And also, what can I get? So if I buy your book, can I get these tips, or these kind of advices, or what can I get from the book if I just start reading it right now? I know that the book is one of the best selling books. Is already has lots of awards. Also, if this book is already out for 2 years, right, or three? If I'm
Right.
not
So we
mistaken.
launched it last year on 13th of
Oh,
July, the part one,
yeah.
and we launched the part two this year on again 13th of July, and it's in the pre-orders, and the pre-orders sales end at January 2021. That's when it will be out. So that's the part two, and I'll be honest here. So part one, I'm not really proud of. It's really compilation of lots of authors and their thoughts, but it will definitely be helpful for people who are getting started with digital marketing and want to have a little bit of understanding of growth hacking. And then in the second one, I feel that it's a lot better because we have so many good people on the book. We have approached people like Noah Kagan from AppSumo, he's contributing. We also approached Sean Ellis for the foreword. So he has said that he'll read the manuscript and then he will decide. So there's no confirmation on that. But he definitely said he'll read the manuscript to decide if he will write the foreword. So I'm a little more proud about the part two of the book. And again, it's a compilation of 100 growth marketers and entrepreneurs. Wish and hope to write a book like individually sometime in the future. So for now, I think if I have to talk about the part two, it's mostly a compilation of specific growth hacks from particular marketers and entrepreneurs, what has worked for them, what has not. So I think it's an interesting read if someone is trying to just entertain them with reading about the marketing space.
Okay, that's pretty good. So everyone that wants to start and discover a little bit more and become a shepherd in the future, they can start here.
Right.
Okay, so Rowan, do you want to share any piece of advice and any case study or strategy that you have that you think that will be really valuable for the audience, or you just want to like do a small call to action, like follow my Twitter and LinkedIn, and keep in touch. Your Twitter account has lots and lots of followers and you have lots of activity there. Your LinkedIn is starting to grow also. You started a YouTube channel last year and is also starting to get some traction, so you have lots of platforms to communicate.
Yeah,
So
I think the best piece of advice that I have repeatedly said this on so many places, and I will repeat. What I feel is that the best way to navigate in this ecosystem really is to learn from people who have been there and done that. Collaborate with people who you feel are your peers, and teach people who are just starting out. I think that's the best piece of advice I have received, and I'm passing it on. And to stay connected or updated of everything that I'm doing. I'm fairly active on social media, not very active but fairly active. You can just maybe Google me and you will find all the social links there. Because the usernames are different, I can't really say one username, but yeah, if you search me, you will find all the social icons on the Google Knowledge Panel.
Okay, thank you so much, and it was a pleasure chatting with you. So everyone that wants to follow Rohan, just you have the links down here in the description, and you can just also DM us if you have any question. Thank you.